I never thought my daughter would abandon me on my deathbed, until I made a shocking decision. The room was dim, the air heavy with the scent of antiseptic and despair. I could hear the beeping of the machines. Each pulse of my heart echoed in the silence. I never imagined saying goodbye would feel like drowning. Each breath became a struggle. My lungs betrayed me. But it wasn't just the illness that fractured my spirit. My daughter, Lily, sat by the window, shadows playing across her face. Her eyes avoided mine, a storm of emotions swirling within. I wished for comfort, for her touch to calm my racing heart. But there was only distance. It felt like she was slipping further away, no matter how much I reached out. I could see her trembling hands, tracing the patterns on her jeans, a sign of the turmoil inside. Lily had always been my light, my little girl with curls like sunshine. But as the years stacked upon us, the laughter faded. I saw it in her eyes. Resentment simmered just beneath the surface. I never wanted the walls between us to grow so high. Every harsh word, every moment of silence chipped away at our bond. The thought of leaving this world without her by my side twisted my gut. The night before the decision, I lay awake, haunted by the whispers of our past. I remembered family dinners filled with laughter, the warmth of her small hand in mine. But now, those memories felt sharp, like shards of glass. I thought about my will, my last wishes, and how everything hung in the balance. I could feel the weight of my choice pressing down on me. Maybe it was time for a radical change. A shock to wake her up, to stir the love buried under layers of hurt. So I did it. I wrote her a letter, revealing a secret I had held too close for too long. It was a gamble, one that might fracture us forever. But maybe, just maybe, it would cut through the fog that suffocated our love. I sealed it in a yellow envelope and left it on my bedside table, a glimmer of hope amidst the shadows. As dawn crept in, the light poured through the window. I could feel the tension in the air, thick enough to suffocate. When she finally picked up the envelope, her delicate fingers shaking, I held my breath. Would this be the moment everything changed? But as she read, her face turned to stone. I could sense the betrayal in her silence, like a knife slicing through what remained of my heart. I never thought she would turn away from me. The shadows deepened in her eyes, and I felt my own heart splinter. What had I done? And just as quickly, she walked away, leaving me in that lonely room, the emptiness echoing louder than my heart. I called out to her, but the sound fell flat, swallowed by the sterile walls. I never thought it would end like this. How could I have lost her when I was fighting for us? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence left in Lily's wake was a palpable entity, a haunting presence that filled the room with more despair than I could bear. The machines beeped in their monotonous rhythm, an echo of the life I was desperately holding on to. I searched for breath, for something to anchor myself to, but my heart felt adrift in a sea of regret. Why had I thought that revealing my truth would bridge the chasm between us? The weight of my decision bore down on me, a crushing feeling that left me gasping for air. I thought I had chosen a path to enlightenment, but all I had done was cast a shadow on our fragile relationship. The envelope languished on my bedside table, taunting me with its silence. Every minute felt like an eternity, the absence of conversation hanging thick. I could almost feel the words swirling in my throat, begging to be expressed, but the knowledge that I had hurt my daughter stifled me. I ached for the days when we would sit together, laughing at nothing in particular, the very essence of joy that seemed lost now. A nurse came in later, bright and cheery, her demeanor a stark contrast against the bleak lining of the room. She tended to my fore, her hands deftly managing the equipment while shooting me a slender smile. "You're a fighter," she said, her voice a warm balm against the icy walls. "You've got this." In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within me. Not every heart was closed off, not every soul beyond reach. Perhaps if I could find that very spark within my own child, If I could reignite those old memories, maybe I could still salvage our connection. But as the day dragged on, the weight of my actions sunk deeper. I remembered the small moments, echoes of laughter that now felt like distant memories. I longed for Lily to return, to give me a reason to believe that we could rise from the ashes of our brokenness. Just then, I felt a warmth enveloping my heart, a thought that maybe, just maybe, my letter could serve as a catalyst for change. Time seemed to stand still until the late afternoon shadows crept in. The dim room filled with golden light just as the door creaked open. My heart leaped, only to sink again when I saw it was not Lily but an older gentleman, a fellow patient I had chatted with a few days prior. He bore a frail smile, and though his face was drawn and weary, he held something delicately in his hands. "Thought you might like this," he said, raising a small bouquet of wild flowers, their colors vibrant against his pale skin. "They're not much, but they remind us of life outside these walls." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes as I accepted the fragile gift. In that moment, gratitude washed over me, mingling with the pain in my chest. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice cracking with emotion. It was a small gesture, but it filled my heart with warmth, a reminder that kindness thrived even in the darkest places. As he sat down beside me, the conversation flowed easily. We spoke of our lives, our stories woven together through shared struggles. For a brief moment, I glanced away from my own anguish, discovering a glimmer of strength amidst sorrow. His words resonated with my own silent battles, intertwining our struggles with laughter and understanding. Then, as the sun began to set, painting the room in hues of orange and purple, Lily stepped through the door once more, her eyes searching my face. I braced for the storm, her gaze a mixture of anger and confusion. The moment felt loaded. Hope hung in the air like a fragile bubble waiting to burst. She started, her voice shaky. The moment felt charged, tension crackling in the space between us. I could see her battling with her thoughts, the letter perhaps still a wound that wouldn't heal. "I don't know what to say." She looked at the flowers, and I took my chance, extending the small bouquet toward her. "They remind me," I faltered, the words lodged in my throat, "of life, and how fragile it all is." Lily's expression softened for just a moment, those walls I had built around my own heart beginning to tremble. The conversation turned once again, twisting in ways I had hoped, weaving intricate emotions through open dialogue. But before I could voice the hope I clung to, she turned abruptly, her expression hidden in the shadows of her thoughts. I need time," she said, a whisper that felt like a hammer on glass. Then she was gone, retreating from the light, the door closing with a finality that split my heart anew. I watched the shadows deepen once more, my pulse echoing in the silence that followed. I had hoped this would be the moment we could start to heal. Yet with each passing moment, the specter of doubt loomed larger as I faced the reality that I might have pushed her even further away. And in that breathless stillness, I realized the shocking truth. The next time I saw her, I could be gone. The days seemed to stretch into an unyielding cycle. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, a grim reminder of each fleeting moment. I was still here, but time felt like a thief, robbing me of the chance to mend what was so hopelessly broken. The silence after Lily left reverberated through me, gnawing at the edges of my fragile resolve. I knew she needed time, but I feared that with every day that passed, that precious connection between us would dim further, like the fading light of the sunset that had illuminated our last interaction. As the evening shadows lingered, a nurse came in to check my vitals. The gentle touch of her fingers against my wrist brought a soothing calm, yet the warmth only served to amplify the void left by my daughter's absence. "How are you feeling today?" she asked, her eyes full of an understanding that transcended mere politeness. "Like I'm losing my daughter," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. The truth weighed heavily on my heart, the depths of my despair threatening to fracture my very soul. She paused, acknowledging the significance of my words. "It's a difficult journey, but sometimes people come back to us when we least expect it," she murmured, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. "Keep faith in that." Those words felt like a lifeline, a tiny thread of hope when I had assumed I was completely adrift. I clung to her optimism like a child grasping a worn teddy bear. though the harsh reality lingered in the back of my mind. What if I didn't have much time left to reclaim our bond? Soon after her departure, I found myself staring at the envelope on the bedside table once more, the one filled with the truths I had thought I could share. It had become my compass, but now it felt more like an anchor, dragging me down into the depths of my own sorrow. Could I bear to write another letter? One not of apologies, but of my unwavering love. Would it make a difference? With trembling hands, I reached for the envelope, but just as I began to scribble a few lines, I was interrupted by the soft creaking of the door. My heart soared, but it sank just as quickly when I saw it was not Lily but the elderly gentleman from before, his once frail smile even weaker now. Did I ask this a bad time? He asked, concern drifting across his face. No, not at all, I replied, attempting to mask the swirling emotions threatening to consume me. I could use some company. He settled into the chair beside me, his figure hunched with weariness. I've been thinking about our talk the other day, he said slowly, about choices and regrets. You know, no one has the strength to truly heal without facing the pain head-on. His words rang truer than ever, resonating with the lament of my heart. I had been trying to bridge the chasm with Lily without fully facing the darkness of my past. Perhaps it was time to acknowledge my own failures, me decisions that led us here. I tried to share it all with her, truth. But maybe I didn't consider how it would hurt her, I confessed, searching his eyes for understanding. It's hard, as a parent, isn't it? He replied gently. We carry our own burdens and unintentionally pass them on. The journey towards healing isn't just about the other person. It's about you, too. Are you ready to let her know that? His insight struck a chord within me, awakening dormant echoes of self-examination. I needed to forgive myself, to find a way to move forward not just for Lily, but for the mother I had once believed I could be. Maybe I had opened the door to honest dialogue by exposing my vulnerable self, even if it terrified me. Would she respond, even if it took time? As the dim light of the room shifted to the harshness of overhead bulbs, I felt the brittle weight press down again. My mysterious illness loomed like an ever-present question mark, one that hung in the air, unstoppable and relentless. Each moment I wasted contemplating my past could chip away at my future. Then, just as hope flickered within my chest, the door swung open slowly, and there stood Lily, her eyes glistening with something unfathomable. I got your letter, she stammered, her voice breaking, and I wanted to talk. A rush of mixed emotions surged through me: fear, anxiety, but most of all, hope. This was the moment I had longed for, yet as I was about to respond, a shadow loomed behind her, the visage of a doctor, his demeanor heavy with urgency. Excuse me, he said, interrupting, his brow furrowed. We need to discuss your health. I looked at Lily, her expression a tumult of confusion and concern. Time felt frozen, the world narrowing down to this singular, excruciating moment. With the doctor's presence looming like a storm cloud, the delicate thread of our potential reconciliation hung in a precarious balance. Mom, she began, but the doctor's steely gaze cut through the air, demanding my attention. Please, we need to discuss your treatment options now, he insisted. I could only watch in despair as Lily's eyes filled with a mixture of fear and longing, the bridge I had hoped to build teetering on the edge of that conversation. My heart raced, caught in a tense grip between hope and overwhelming crisis, and in a shattering breath, I realized I might never get another chance. The doctor's words sliced through the air, sharp and unyielding. I could feel the tension knotting in my stomach, a tight coil of dread that wrapped around my heart. The weight of unspoken truths and unresolved pain hung between Lily and me like an invisible wall, one that I longed to tear down but felt powerless to navigate in this moment. Lily, I managed, the word barely escaping my lips, trembling with desperation. Can you wait? Please, just for a moment? She hesitated, her brow furrowed in confusion. The doctor's urgency loomed larger still, his stethoscope swinging slightly as he shifted his focus from me to Lily. Miss, this is about your mother's well-being. It's crucial that I don't care about anything else right now, she cried, her voice cracking under the strain of her emotions. I just want to talk to her. The fierce protective instinct in her tone made my heart swell with both pride and pain. It reminded me of the daughter I had raised, the girl who once believed every word I said. But that trust seemed so far away now. The doctor glanced at me, gauging my reaction. My mind whirled as I wrestled with my instincts. To assure Lily I would be okay, to calm her fears, to remind her of all that I was fighting for. But the truth felt too heavy on my tongue, an undeniable reality that could shatter her in that moment. I need to understand what is happening, I stammered, clutching the bedsheets in a white-knuckled grip. If I can make it through this conversation with you, Lily, then maybe I can face whatever comes next. She looked at me, searching for the same kind of hope I failed to find within myself. I could see the flicker of resolve in her gaze, a tiny spark that rekindled my own fighting spirit. "Mom," she whispered, her voice softening as she stepped closer, ignoring the doctor momentarily. "I'm here. I'm ready to hear you. Just please don't let him take you away from me now." The doctor crossed his arms, clearly weighing his options as he stood rigid, unsure of how to intervene. His stance felt like another brick in the wall separating us. I was struck by the irony. The very structure that was supposed to heal me now felt like it was keeping me from the one glimmer of hope I had. I promise," I said fiercely. "You won't lose me, not without a fight." With that declaration, I could see the tiniest fracture in the wall between us. Lily took a deep breath and moved to sit on the edge of my bed, a physical barrier now bridged. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling as the rawness of our emotions filled the room. "Just tell me. I need to know what you've been hiding. Why didn't you come to me sooner if it hurt you so much?" The clock continued its relentless ticking, each second stretching into an eternity. The doctor exchanged a glance with me, exasperated yet powerless against the profound connection that was happening before his eyes. "That I thought I was protecting you," I whispered finally, memories flooding back to Meadows spent in denial, nights lonely with regret, and the countless times I had stifled my heart in hopes of shielding her from the pain of my failures. "But in trying to protect you, I lost myself, and maybe I lost you too." The admission felt monumental, like a rusted gate creaking open after years of neglect. Lily's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and the tension released ever so slightly between us. "Mom, I don't want you to shield me anymore. I don't want us to drift apart because of things left unsaid." And those words, raw and unguarded, were enough to crack the facade I had built around my own sorrow. "I can't forgive myself for the mistakes I made, but I want to try to reconcile. Lily, I want you to know that I love you, no matter what." The doctor shifted uncomfortably, as if the vulnerability radiating in the small space was too much for him to handle. A hint of frustration crossed his face as he grasped my medical file, but I didn't care. All my focus was on Lily, and then it happened. In the midst of our fragile exchanges, there was a sudden knock at the door, breaking the intimate moment. The nurse from earlier stepped in and froze, her expression morphing from professionalism to profound alarm as she assessed the tension in the room. "Doctor, the results from the lab, they just came back," she stuttered, eyes darting nervously between us. A chill snaked its way down my spine. My heart dropped. The fear I had been ignoring swelled within me, a ghastly suspicion that whatever resulted from those tests could shatter this burgeoning connection I was desperate to grasp. It was a tempest rolling in, and I fought against its encroachment. "Is it bad?" Lily asked, her voice a fragile thread, choking on the residual hope lingering in the air. The nurse stepped further into the room, her expression grave. "We need to discuss this immediately." And with those words, in a matter of seconds, the sanctuary I had craved with my daughter was threatened, the illusions of healing and reunion swirling away like wisps of smoke. The cracks were beginning to deepen, and in that raw moment, I realized I might not just be losing my future but potentially my last chance at connection with Lily. I looked at her, the once bright light of our relationship dulled by these unforeseen shadows. "Lily," but before I could say more, those words left unspoken began to loom larger than any shared moment of sincerity. What would happen next? Would this be the end of my chance to reconcile, or merely a stepping stone into the unknown? As the nurse's words echoed in the room, I felt the world around me shift. The air grew thick and suffocating, and the connection with Lily, which had felt so electric moments before, began to feel strained and fragile again. I could see the panic rising in her eyes, the flicker of hope starting to dim as the reality of our situation settled like a heavy fog. "Please," I whispered, reaching out for her hand. desperate to bridge the widening gap once more. Whatever it is, I'm here. Just know that I won't shy away from the truth any longer. Lily's fingers curled around mine, her warmth providing a fleeting comfort amidst the chill creeping into my heart. But even as we held on to each other, the uncertainty loomed over us like an ominous storm cloud. The doctor cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. We need to understand your mother's condition better. The lab results indicate, well, there are complications. Complications? Lily echoed, her voice rising in pitch, the weight of her reality crashing down. What kind of complications? Is my mother? It's too soon to make any definitive conclusions, the doctor replied, but his voice was laced with a gravity that chased the color from Lily's face. We need to conduct further tests, but the results indicate a possible progression in her illness. Progression? The word hung in the air, sharp and accurate. I could feel dread pooling in my stomach, tethering itself to every breath I took. Mom, are you going to be okay? Lily's question sliced through me, so raw and innocent. The child asking a question designed to protect rather than to wound. Yet here we were, caught in a brutal web of reality. I glanced at the doctor, then back to Lily, a storm of emotion thrumming within me. I don't know, sweetheart. I truly don't. The words felt like a prayer, a desperate plea instead of a mere acknowledgement. Can't they do something? There has to be a treatment, something you can try. Her fervor ignited a flicker inside me, igniting the last dregs of hope that still burned in my chest. If there's a chance, I said slowly, I want to try. I want to fight. The doctor's brow furrowed. It's important that you both understand the full extent of what this means. If we pursue treatment, it may be prolonged and intense. It's a difficult path to walk, but he paused, glancing between us. If you're both prepared to face the uncertainties ahead, we can explore options. With each sentence, I felt the weight of expectancy grow heavier. The magnitude of my daughter's fear mirrored my own, and I was terrified that the more I spoke, the more I could fracture the precious bond we were just beginning to mend. In that chaotic whirlwind of whispers and fears, I squeezed Lily's hand. Whatever happens, know that I will never give up on you. Not now, not ever. Mom, I can't. Her words faltered, each syllable tinged with despair as she fought against the encroaching gloom. I don't know how to lose you after just finding you again, and it broke me. In that moment, I was standing at the precipice of both hope and despair. The walls engulfing us felt both protective and imprisoning, and while I wrestled with the tidal wave of emotions, a thought struck me, unbidden yet vivid. What if I made a choice that could change everything? I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the tidal wave of vulnerability that surged within me. Lily, if it comes to that, I want you to promise me something. Promise me that you will live your life fully, without the shadows of my past weighing you down. The doctor raised an eyebrow, uncertain of where this conversation was spiraling. What are you suggesting exactly? But I pushed through the uncertainty, urgency fueling my resolve. If it comes to a point where I can no longer be the mother you know, then let me go. Don't let the fear of losing me dictate your future. Mom, you're scaring me. Lily cried, her voice breaking. The fear transcended our circumstances, morphing into something deeper, a premonition of loss hanging heavy in the space between us. Just promise me. The strength it required to utter those words drained me. The love I felt for her was like a pulsing wound, painful, yet undeniably beautiful. I wanted her to be free, even if it meant walking away from me. I can't. She choked out, tears spilling down her cheeks as she clung to our connection. I refused to choose that. My heart shattered at her anguish, our once shared dreams now replaced by a chilling reality. The doctor stood in silence, his presence almost an echo as we plunged further into the depths of our feelings. But there, in the heat of that moment, was also a spark of unexpected kindness. The nurse, who had seemed so intimidated moments before, stepped closer. I can't offer any guarantees about the future, but we have resources here, support groups, counselors. You both don't have to be alone in this fight. Lily transformed in an instant, her anguish morphing into a thread of possibility as she turned toward the nurse. But what if it's not enough? What if then we'll find something more? The nurse responded softly, her demeanor a balm to our fraying nerves. There is always hope, even in the darkest of times. I locked eyes with Lily, I could see a flicker of something that could pull us back from the edge. Perhaps it was a glimmer of hope, or perhaps just a momentary distraction amid the storm. But in the depths of this turmoil, our hands remained woven together, a tangible reminder of our shared love. Yet as the weight of our impending choices loomed, a sudden pang of dread pierced through my thoughts like an icy shiver. The decision I was hovering over wasn't just about my health or future. It could alter the very fabric of Lily's life. And somewhere in the depth of my soul, as I wrestled with the decision boiling within me, I knew whatever choice I made would not just shape my fate, but potentially sever the thread that had just begun to mend. "Mom," Lily whispered, leaning closer, pulling my attention back to her pleading gaze. "Whatever you decide, just know." But before she could finish, the alarm on the hospital monitor blared, wailing through the room, the sound a harbinger of chaos. The doctor spun toward the source, and in that single instant, everything spiraled, a revelation looming just beyond my grasp as the darkness encroached upon our flickering hopes again. This was just the beginning, but we were about to confront a truth that could shake the very foundations of our relationship. Time was running out, and within those chaotic moments, our uncertain futures clung to the unseen threads of fate, leaving me questioning if Lily would still be at my side when the echoes of fear faded. The alarm continued its urgent cry, slicing through the fragile atmosphere like a knife. I felt Lily's fingers grip mine tighter, her breath quickening as the chaos unfolded around us. "Stay here," the doctor called to the nurses, urgency commandeering his every movement. He pushed past us, glancing back only once to meet my desperate gaze, as if trying to deliver a silent assurance amidst the storm. But the truth was, the sense of impending crisis wrapped around my chest like a vice. "What's happening, Mom?" Lily's voice wavered, the panic rolling off her in waves. I wished I had answers to calm her, but instead, all I could do was watch as order turned to chaos before our eyes. Nurses rushed in, urgency painting their faces as they pushed past us, readying supplies and equipment, while the beeping of machines escalated, a frantic backdrop to our spiraling fears. And in that moment, against a tide of uncertainty, my mind was lit up with scenes from the last few days: Lily's laughter ringing in the hallways, the warmth of her touch during shared meals, the quiet moments where we began to stitch our lives together once more. How had we come to this? Teetering between hope and despair. The doctor's voice pierced through the noise as he shouted commands, his authority snapping my attention back. I wanted to scream out for him to reassure us, to tell us that everything would be okay. But then an unsettling thought crept in the corners of my mind. What if it wasn't okay? "Mom." Lily's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts, her grip on my hand suddenly feeling like the only tether to reality in this whirlwind. What if we lose her?" I aimed for a smile, but it wavered as tears pooled in my eyes. "No, sweetheart. We're going to face this together. You won't lose me. We're in this battle together," I said, forcing confidence into my words, even as a dark cloud loomed on the horizon. Just then, the doctor returned, eyebrows furrowed, a rare seriousness radiating from him. His eyes flicked between Lily and me before settling on my daughter, a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of our situation. "Miss Thompson," he began, his voice steady yet filled with an undercurrent of concern, "there are complications. Your mother's condition has changed. We need your consent for immediate intervention." Before the weight of his words could sink into her heart, Lily's eyes widened, panic knitting her brow. "What do you mean, what's wrong?" "There are signs of significant deterioration, and we need to assess whether we can stabilize her. It could mean aggressive treatment. But time is critical," he explained. For the briefest moment, I wished to shield her from the harshness of this reality. I wanted to tell her that we had time, that every moment was a gift we would hold onto tightly. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew that was a lie I couldn't afford to tell. I don't know," Lily stammered, stepping back, fear pooling in her gaze. "Isn't there another option? Maybe we should just..." Lily, I interrupted gently, my voice low but firm. "This could be our only chance. You know, if we don't act quickly, we may not have another shot. Please." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she hesitated, caught in a tempest of indecision and dread. "But what if I lose you? What if you don't come back?" As dread tunneled into my chest, I reached out to cup her cheek, my heart breaking at the depth of her fear. "You won't. And you must remember I love you." No matter what, I will always love you. The doctor cleared his throat, a soft reminder that time was slipping through our fingers like sand. Lily, we will do everything possible. I need to know, you must decide, and quickly. Just give us a moment, I said, squeezing Lily's hand, my heart racing. Please. The doctor stepped back. We were enveloped in a suffocating silence, the frantic beeping around us somehow distant as we wrestled through the decision to fight or to surrender to this unrelenting tide. Mom, I can't bear to think of losing you again. Her fingers trembled against mine, and I could sense the monumental weight of that realization. Breaking her, promise me, I urged, summoning every ounce of fading strength within me, that you will fight for me, for us. We can't give up hope now. We've just begun to find our way back. In the trembling silence that ensued, I sensed a flicker of something shifting within her. Perhaps it was fragile hope, or perhaps just a glimpse of the relentless fight that had always defined us. Okay, she whispered, hesitantly. But what if it's too late? Before I could address her fear, the monitor emitted a shrill alarm, and all-consuming dread filled the air. A medical emergency unfolding before us again. Stay with me, Mom, she pleaded, eyes wide and searching mine for reassurance. Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind us, a new presence breaking into our space. Actually, it might not be too late after all. We turned simultaneously, and my breath caught as the face of a familiar figure emerged, a long-forgotten kindness, nestled in the depths of my memories. It was Sarah, my old friend, the one person who had once promised to stand by me, even in my darkest moments. What are you doing here? I gasped, surprise filling my voice amidst the chaos. I've been here all along, but I didn't know what to say, how to help. She glanced at Lily, then back at me, her eyes shimmering with compassion. But I couldn't just sit back anymore. I have connections, resources. We can find options outside these walls if we need to. A glimmer of warmth in my heart ignited. I felt something shift, a sliver of light piercing through our darkness, offering a pathway through the storm. But the exhilaration came without ease. The price for hope was still unclear. Mom? Lily turned her gaze back to me, uncertainty lacing her features. Do you think she's telling the truth? The weight of decision gripped me once more, even as I yearned for a clear answer. The realization washed over me that the truth I had sought to protect Lily from was now intertwined with our futures in an unfathomable way. Just then, a sudden shiver coursed through me, and I stumbled, the world spinning at its edges. Everything around me blurred, the faces of Lily and Sarah becoming smudged colors against the backdrop of chaos. Mom. Lily's voice pierced through my haze, sharp and desperate. Please, don't go. And as darkness began to close in around me, I realized that the shocking decision I had been avoiding was not a choice to be made between a treatment or the unknown, but a much deeper reckoning of trust, love, and the precarious bond that tethered us in this fleeting moment of existence. As everything faded, I was left staring at the question that cycled in my head. Would our fragile connection survive this challenge? Or would Lily be forced to face the reality of my absence this time, once and for all? The blaring alarm became a haunting echo in my mind, a relentless reminder of the weight of my choices. Darkness swelled and danced at the edges of my vision, threatening to consume me completely. But through the haze, the piercing clarity of those words, please, don't gunshered me to the present. I wanted to reach out, to assure Lily that I would not leave her again. I fought against the encroaching shadows, willing my strength to endure for her sake. Stay with me, Mom. Lily's voice was no longer a gentle whisper. It was a frantic plea, desperate and raw, pulling me from the edge of unconsciousness. With a shuddering breath, I forced myself to stay present, to push through the darkness suffocating me. My hand trembled in Lily's grasp, and I could feel her heart racing, pumping with a mixture of fear and hope. Lily, I managed to whisper, summoning a thread of strength from some deep reserve within me. We have to decide together. I need you to trust me, to believe in us. Her eyes, those brilliant mirrors of my soul, welled with tears, and for a moment, the panic melted into a flicker of understanding. I want you to fight, Mom, but I don't want anything to happen to you again. Her voice was a brittle thread woven with pain. It resonated with the ghost of our past, a haunting reminder of the fragility that defined our relationship, I searched for the words to ease her fears. The unyielding grip of uncertainty tightened. The knowledge that this was potentially my last chance hung heavily in the air. With each passing second, the faces surrounding us seemed to blur into the periphery, the chaos dimming into a dull roar. All I could focus on was the undeniable truth between us. If we chose to fight, it would be a battle for both our futures. I promise, I won't abandon you, I whispered, my voice shaking. But you need to choose. This is the moment. Lily's hands were trembling as they clutched mine, her spirit teetering on a precipice of hope and trepidation. The pause felt like an eternity, filled with questions only we could answer. And then, Sarah stepped closer, her presence a warm balm amidst the turmoil. "Lily," she said gently, her voice threading through our emotions like the most delicate of stitches. "Your mom deserves a chance, and sometimes we have to take risks to seize those chances. I will help you gather every resource we can. You're not alone in this." Lily turned to Sarah, absorbing her words like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. Yet the fear still flickered in her eyes, a storm brewing beneath the surface. "But what if it works, and I lose her anyway? Then you will find a way to carry her memory with you, but not now." It was a calm reply, yet the sentiment hung heavy in acknowledgement of loss that could come at any moment. "I can't live the rest of my life with what-ifs," I said, sincerity emerging through the haze of pain. "I want to fight. I need to know you'll be there with me." Lily finally took a step back from the precipice of indecision. Her gaze, once fractured by fear, began to harden into resolution. Okay, we'll do it. We'll fight for you, Mom. Please." The doctor's face reappeared, casting an expectant glance our way. The decision? A momentary pause enveloped us once more, and I could see the gears turning in Lily's mind. With trembling resolve, she nodded at the doctor. "Yes, let's do it. Please take her into surgery." In that instant, my heart surged with a mix of gratitude and pride. The choice echoed in my mind like a beautiful symphony, harmonizing our fears into a single note of determination. But even as a rush of exhilaration coursed through me, I couldn't escape the clutches of doubt that lingered in the corners of my heart. With a quick nod, the doctor gestured for nurses to prepare the room, and in the flurry of activity, I felt both liberated and terrified. I glanced at Sarah, grateful for her unwavering support, but I couldn't shake the lingering weight of my promise to fight, to survive, no matter the cost. As my gurney was wheeled away, I caught one last glimpse of Lily, her eyes burning with a fervent blend of fear, hope, and strength. "I love you, Mom," she called out, her voice breaking the invisible thread that tied us. "I love you too, Lily," I replied, my heart swelling at her courage. But as I was whisked through the door, a sudden thought stabbed through my mind. What if this wasn't a fight for my life, but a battle that would tear us apart in a way we hadn't prepared for? The sterile smell of the hallway blended with the rushing energy around me, but my heart was heavy with the knowledge that whatever the outcome, each decision brought with it a deeper conflict. And just as I braced for the unknown, the unsettling whisper of doubt spiraled through me. What if I emerged from this battle not as the mother Lily needed, but as someone forever changed, forever lost to her? With that thought hanging heavily, the world blurred and faded, leaving me teetering once more on the edge of oblivion, on the brink of a revelation that would redefine everything for both of us. As I shifted into the stark fluorescent light of the operating room, a part of me wished to cling to the dark embrace of the shadows that had threatened to engulf me moments before. It felt like surrendering, like giving in to the very despair I had fought so fiercely against. But I was going to fight. I had to, not just for myself, but for Lily, for the small moments of joy that shimmered through our pain. The coolness of the sterile sheets brushed against my skin, and as the team of doctors began their preparations, I allowed a fragmented thought to surface. Each beep and whir of the machine seemed eerily alive, echoing like a heartbeat caught in a web of anxiety. My heart raced in tandem, and I took deep breaths, each one anchoring me closer to the reality of the moment. "Can you tell me your name?" The anesthesiologist's voice broke through the haze, gentle yet authoritative, pulling my mind back from the spirals of worry. "Catherine," I replied, an imbalance of vulnerability and resolve flickering in my chest. "Catherine Strong," he nodded, his eyes meeting mine with warmth and kindness. "We're going to take good care of you, Catherine. You've got this." A simple phrase, yet it echoed with authenticity, tethering me further to this moment. As the mask descended over my face, I caught sight of the walls adorned with medical diagrams, fading memories of anatomy that now felt like distant knowledge. I squeezed my eyes shut, surrendering to the weight of darkness creeping at the edges of my consciousness. "I'm coming back," I whispered to myself, though doubt clenched tightly at my throat. But just as blissful oblivion began to wrap around me, an unexpected thought pierced through the gloom. What if I returned, but not in the way Lily envisioned? Would she still be proud of me? Would I even recognize myself beneath the layers of uncertainty I felt enveloping me? When I awoke, the world was a muddled swirl of sounds and muted lights. Gradually, like pieces of a puzzle, clarity returned. I tried to move, but a heaviness anchored me down. The first thing I noticed was the flutter of movement beside me. Lily's unmistakable form was slumped over in a chair, her chest rising and falling as she struggled against the exertion of staying awake, her face buried in her arms. My heart swelled with love, deeper than I had ever known, yet a ripple of dread pulled at me. I reached out, ready to cradle her, to hold her closeness. "Lily," I rasped, each syllable a labor of love. At the sound of my voice, she jolted awake, her eyes wide and glistening like dewy morning grass. "Mom." Her voice was a mixture of relief and fresh terror, and she rushed to my side as if I might slip away again. I clutched at her hand, a warmth blossoming between us, grounding me further in reality. Did it work? My voice came out barely above a whisper, the words laced with fears I couldn't articulate. Lily nodded fervently, her tears mingling with relief and exhaustion. "Yes, they said you did well," but her words caught in a delicate web of tension, and my pulse quickened, sensing the weight behind her hesitation. "But," I urged gently, fighting against the lingering fear of the unknown. She met my gaze, and I could see the shadows of doubt etched into her features. "They said they had to remove some parts of you." Her voice trembled, the revelation hanging heavily in the space between us. "They said it might change things, Mom. You might not be the same when you wake up, at least, not completely." Sorrow seeped into her tone, threading through every word a warning that threatened to unravel the bond we had fought to build. "What does that mean? How will I know?" The questions tumbled out, heavy with worry and confusion. "I don't know." She bit down on her lip, her own despair threatening to break free. "I just don't want to lose you." With each word, I felt the delicate thread of our reality fraying at the edges. This wasn't merely a fight against illness. It was a wrestle against the very essence of who we were. The thought that our identities could shift beneath the weight of circumstance sent a fresh shiver of dread through me. "I'm still here," I whispered, but uncertainty laced my voice. "I'm still your mom." But inside, the storm of doubt was brewing again. What if this was not an ending, but a separation disguised as survival? What if I returned to Lily, but I was no longer the same woman she needed? Just as I grasped for reassurance, the door swung open, and Sarah walked in, her expression a mix of elation and caution. "Catherine, you're awake." She moved with a spirit of joy, dimmed by the awareness of the challenges that lay ahead. I was so worried. "It's going to get better from here, I promise." But as much as her words brought comfort, they couldn't extinguish the encroaching depths of my own despair. I desperately wanted to believe in her optimism, but the foundation inkling that I might return differentis, if a part of me might remain lost in the past, settled like a stone in the pit of my stomach. As Sarah rushed to join us at the bedside, I caught a fleeting glance of apprehension in Lily's eyes. She looked at me as if searching for something in my gaze: reassurance, perhaps, or a promise that I would always be the person she loved unconditionally. But even as I tried to give her that answer, another voice whispered, "What if I can't be?" The swirling chaos of emotions swelled around us, binding us tighter with every beat of uncertainty. And just like that, a startling realization struck as the curtain of the past wafted in the air, ready to trap us in a conflict we had never anticipated. What if the most profound fight lay not in the surgery or the healing, but in the battle to remain connected, even when everything was shifting beneath our feet? As the days folded into nights, the sterile hum of the hospital became a haunting backdrop to our lives. I lay in the small, white-walled room, tethered by wires and IVs, a frail thread connecting me to the outside world. Lily remained close, her presence a balm to my frayed spirit, yet an invisible chasm grew between us, forged by my newfound fears and her unshakable hope. My body was healing, but my mind wrestled with the specters of my former self. Each attempt to engage with Lily was shrouded by the suffocating fog of what I might become. I wanted to reassure her, to be the mother she so cherished. But every time I looked into her eyes, all I saw were reflections of my doubts. Was I still the woman who just days before had the strength to cradle her? Or was I now a ghost lingering in the shell of a mother she needed? Let's play a game, Mom, Lily suggested one evening, her voice brightening the sterile room with a child's enthusiasm, a resort to the familiar. She sat cross-legged beside me, a stack of cards in her hand filled with whimsical drawings we collected over the years. You used to love this. Remember when we would spend hours just trying to see who could build the tallest tower out of the cards? Of course. I managed a faint smile, but the shadows crept back, tugging at the corners of my mouth. I hesitated, staring at her hopeful face, as if it were a reflection of the sun I had long forgotten. But what if I struggle? She tilted her head, confusion bubbling in her brow. What do you mean? What should have been an innocent card game was morphing into a terrifying reminder of everything I feared. What if I can't think like I used to? Her face fell slightly, the bright spark clouded by concern, but she quickly masked it with a brave smile. You'll be okay, I know it. The doctor said it can take time to adjust. Just try. She shuffled the cards, her determination igniting a flicker of defiance in my heart. Okay, let's try. I reached for the cards, my fingers trembling slightly, as if they were foreign to me. I focused on the vibrant illustrations, letting the memories wade through the rushing tide of anxiety. As we began to play, the sound of cards cascading down filled the air, each slip a momentary release. But as the game flowed, moments of clarity started to mingle with the fog, and the reality of my condition seeped in. My cognitive response was slightly delayed, and I watched Lily's eyes widen and hope slowly dim as I struggled to keep pace. Every stuttering breath felt like a tiny shard of glass piercing my heart. Suddenly, in the midst of our game, I toppled the tower we had carefully constructed, the cards fluttering down like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. I can't do it, I cried out, anguish spilling over like uncontrolled waves. Am not who I was. Am broken, Lily. Her soft hands cupped my cheeks, pulling me into her fragile world. You're still you, she cried, fresh tears staining her cheeks. You'll always be my mom. You have to believe that. The raw power of her plea filled the room, filling spaces of doubt with a hesitant light. But as soothing as her words were, I could feel an unsettling truth. What if, even in believing I was still the same, I would disappoint her? What if the person I would become was not the person she wanted? The air turned heavy, choking me with unspoken words. What if I started, but I couldn't finish? I was terrified to utter the reality that hovered like a dark cloud between us, the fear that maybe, just maybe, she would someday find me wanting. That a gentle knock interrupted our moment, and Sarah stepped into the room, her energy palpable. Here you are, you two, she chimed, trying to infuse the room with positivity. I brought some surprises. Care to see? As Sarah unveiled treats and small trinkets, a fresh light flickered in Lily's eyes, though I noticed the slight tension beneath the surface. They chatted animatedly, but I retreated into the background, consumed by a whirlwind of emotions that seemed never-ending. Suddenly, Lily's laughter filled the space, but instead of warmth, it coiled into something more dangerous, a painful reminder that while she could still find joy in the world, my presence might never return to that ever-supportive mother she needed. You're going to love these, she declared, turning back to me with untamed hope dancing in her gaze. Can you tell me what you think? Sarah asked, smiling at both of us while unpacking a delicate bracelet. You know, I thought it might suit you, Catherine. I gazed down at the shiny trinket, an item of beauty that felt distant from my reality. It's lovely, I managed, but it rang hollow to my own ears, so different from the excitement I would have felt before. But then, a shocking realization bubbled to the surface that swept through me like a gust of wind on a still day. What if I found a way to change, not for Lily's sake, but for my own? What if I allowed myself the liberty to explore the unknown, to embrace the pieces of me yet untouched by this madness? At that moment, as I watched Lily share a laugh with Sarah, I felt the chasm within me shift ever so slightly. Perhaps I could find grace in this uncertainty, and in doing so, I might even discover a new avenue to love. Lily, I breathed, drawing her attention back to me as an idea began to crystallize in my mind. A decision weighted with both fear and daring. What if I took charge of this, of rebuilding ourselves anew? Her eyes widened, and I leaned closer. What if I chose to embrace who I could become? But before she could respond, our door swung open with an unexpected force, and a tall figure appeared, an unfamiliar doctor, his face etched with urgency and concern. "Catherine," he said, stepping forward, his intensity swallowing the room's hope. "I need to talk to you and your family. It's important. There are complications." My heart plummeted as uncertainty clawed at my chest. The warmth of redemption snuffed out like a candle caught in a storm. I met Lily's gaze, and we both felt it, then the weight of what was to come. As the doctor's chilling words hung in the air, reality struck like a lightning bolt, leaving everything suspended in breathless anticipation. The room constricted around us as the words tumbled from the doctor's mouth, each syllable heavy with foreboding. My mind raced, twisting through possibilities like a maze of despair. Complications, what could that mean for us now, when it felt like we had just begun to find our way back to one another? "Mom." Lily's voice trembled, her shock mingling with the faintest thread of hope still clinging to her. But the defiant flicker in her eyes began to pale, overshadowed by the looming specter of fear. I could feel my heart thudding in my chest as I grasped for a response. Every breath seemed more laborious, more deliberate, as if time itself conspired against me. With shaky resolve, I focused on the doctor, desperate for clarity. "What does this mean? Are we out of options?" He hesitated, searching for the right words as he glanced at Lily, then back to me. "Your current recovery has brought to light an unexpected development. We need to reassess our approach. The path ahead may require a second procedure, a bit more invasive than what we initially anticipated." Pain blossomed in my chest, a tangible ache that twisted itself around my heart. What if this new path meant losing the connection I had fought so hard to rekindle with Lily? The threads binding mother and daughter threatened to fray again, and the knowledge that our time was precarious weighed heavily upon my spirit. "Mom?" Lily's hands clutched mine, a lifeline tethering us even in this storm. "What are we going to do?" I wanted to cry out for assurance, to protect her from the depth of my own uncertainty, yet my resolve crumbled against the weight of reality. "We will fight," I said, forcing warmth into my voice despite the chill creeping into my bones. "We have to." But even as I uttered those words, a gnawing doubt lingered at the edges of my consciousness. What if fighting meant facing loss, the unimaginable, the kind that could fracture the very core of our bond? Just as that thought coiled tightly in the pit of my stomach, Lily squeezed my hand, her eyes brightening ever so slightly. "Mom, we can do this together. You're not alone," she said, her determination reigniting the soft embers of hope flickering within me. "Whatever it takes, I'm here. Always." Suddenly, that glimmer began to swell. The realization struck me. Our fight wasn't merely about the surgeries or prognosis. It was about fighting for the love we had carved from the ashes of our past. It was about rebuilding what was broken, brick by brick, using the honest truths we had almost surrendered to despair. "Promise me that whatever happens, we stay together." "No more walls, no more silence," I said, capturing her gaze, the depth of my plea flooding the space between us. "I promise," she affirmed, her voice a heartbeat of strength. "I won't let you go. Not this time." As I met the doctor's gaze again, I could see that flicker of hope mirrored in his demeanor. "We'll need your consent to proceed with the next steps. It's essential we act fast," he explained, his urgency beneath a layer of empathy. I nodded, drawing strength from Lily's unwavering presence. "Do what you need to do," I replied, my voice steady despite the tempest of emotions swirling around me. And just like that, I felt a flicker of liberation ignite deep within my chest. Whatever the outcome, this time, we would confront it together. The surgery that loomed ahead was not just a physical battle, it was a catalyst, a chance for us to transcend the shadows clinging to our past. As the nurse arrived, preparing for what lay ahead, I caught a glimpse of Sarah standing aside, her eyes full of encouragement as she felt the shift within us, the quiet strength imbuing the atmosphere. "You are doing the right thing," she whispered to me, as if sensing the resolve settling into my bones. Once again, I grasped Lily's hand, feeling the warmth and love woven into our connection. "I love you," I said, the words rich and heavy with promise that "I love you, Mom. Together we can face anything," she vowed. And as I surrendered to the imminent uncertainty, I recognized that whatever awaited us, we were not meant to walk that path alone. The world around me blurred as the weight of impending surgery loomed closer, yet a flicker of resolve ignited in my heart. I closed my eyes for a brief moment, envisioning our shared memories, the laughter, the love, the warmth of our connection as if they were a lifeline sweeping me forward. I would not let fear chain me down this time. As the gurney rolled forward, I held on to a realization so powerful it sent shivers down my spine. Love does not falter in the face of chaos. If anything, it strengthens, it binds, it breathes life into the darkness that threatens to consume you. In that moment, it wasn't just about the surgery set before me. It was about reclaiming my life, forging ahead against the currents of fear. And so as the surrounding voices faded and the shadows became whispers, one thought anchored me, stronger than anything. Love endures, even when it is tested in the crucible of pain. I emerged from the darkness, ready to confront whatever awaited us, for my heart echoed a truth deeper than the hardest of struggles. Together, we would face a future brightened, not diminished, by the trials we had endured. As the sterile lights flickered above, I found myself brimming with the knowledge that love would craft our new beginnings with each heartbeat, and those beats held the promise that we would never be severed again, no matter what. I whispered softly, finding solace amid the chaos. "We are stronger than ever."